Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Business of Business podcast, Two Daughters and Their Dad. I'm your host, Stacey J. Dempsey. Like always, thankfully, one Mogan. We have the one and only dad and the one of the other daughters. Good morning and good afternoon to the both of you and to all of our listeners and our viewers.
Good morning.
Here we are. We are in the thick of summer, at least here in Jersey, where it has been beyond hot and steamy and slightly miserable. However, we're turning a corner here on a cooler day, and so we hope wherever you guys are, you are enjoying the weather. Today, we're going to talk about a hot topic, a topic that you must be living under a rock if you've never heard of this. I know we've talked about it more than several times now here on this podcast, but today we have kind of a different way we want to approach it, maybe even think and talk about it. It's AI. You cannot escape it. It is a part of every layer of life, it seems like, regardless of your age, what industry you're in, if you're in business, if you're not in business. AI is attached to almost every single thing, at least most things that we are doing now. And so today we want to talk a little bit about, number one, are you fearful? Are you feeling optimistic? Maybe you feel a little bit of both. And so, with the help of Dad and Jennifer, we're kind of talk about some perspectives here. And so Jen, why don't we start off with you a little bit, because you mentioned something that I specifically wrote down before we hit record was, how, number one, AI, you're a hairdresser. Some people might think, no way AI is touching what you guys do. Like, you guys got to be in person, somebody's got to do my hair. Somebody. But what you shared, I didn't even realize was kind of really happening. So why don't you kind of start us off? And also, what I had written down was, how is AI hurting us or helping us? But why don't you give, everyone what you're seeing from your side of the industry?
Yeah, so, when AI was just a new concept, it was like I feel like everyone was just so excited about it, and kind of all the possibilities of it. And so current day, I almost feel like we're all starting to freak out a little bit, like this is actually way more powerful. This could potentially take jobs away. This is changing how we're doing business, and we hate this. And so, I mean, like anything in business, when there's something new, there's no sense in trying to go against it. We have to figure it out, make sense of it, and figure out how it can benefit us in business. And so, I shared with you guys before we hit record that a big thing that we're dealing with inside of the salon is that clients are bringing in AI generated pictures for like their hair inspo, and then we're like, this is not possible. And then people are getting upset, like, well, AI says, right? And so now the professional is like battling what consumers are learning through AI, and whatever the internet is telling them. Could you imagine being a doctor? That would be exhausting. That just popped into my head. Like our poor healthcare professionals are probably really going through it. Because listen, my like toe hurts and I'm like on chat GBT, like, what's wrong with my toe? I'm dying. But so I think, for us, what I've been thinking about is like, okay, AI is here, it's here to stay, it's making leaps, and it is impacting the beauty industry. So, how can we use it to our benefit and use it as a tool? Because we obviously cannot fight against it. And so, for me, I've been kind of using AI in my business for marketing and newsletters and tips and tricks in social media. And even in that part of business, I'm feeling like consumers are craving more personalized, authentic relationships, connections, content. So I guess what I'm trying to say, or want us to talk about on this podcast is that how can we use AI as a tool, but not let it consume our presence, our culture, what we're trying to say and do and be. Because I don't know about you guys, when I see like overly AI, you know what's funny is that I was just reading something on social media and they must have like copied and pasted it from ChatGPT, but they didn't take out like, have you seen that before, Stace? And I laugh because listen, I'm using it.
Yeah.
I'm doing that too. Like, how can I make this sound more professional or make it sound more like me or whatever? And I'm like, oh my gosh, she didn't delete the input of it, right? So I just laugh, but it's silly to think that no, that we're not using it. We are. But, I think one thing that AI will never be able to do is is replace that relationship connection um that people want in business, right? So, how is AI helping is going to be our first question that we're going to ask ourselves inside of our business. How can AI help our business? What can we use it as a tool, but not let it take over our whole business?
Yeah, and I think like, you don't want AI, what we I think we were trying to say earlier too is not letting AI become our brand. What we're known for, what we look for. Like, because people still, like you said, John, people still want to see, you being genuine and authentic. And but using it as a tool, not, being clearly everything you do is AI generated. Um but Dad, when you were kind of talking about beforehand was, like AI is not just going to be the chat GPT forever, that there is, there are things way beyond, well, I say beyond the horizon, but as you noted, it's here and now. We just might not fully know about it. So maybe want to just share a little bit about that and then kind of your take on, helpful, hurtful, positive, fearful, all of that.
Well, I think Jennifer, made a good point. I mean, I think in some ways, we have to, um, embrace what it's delivering now in a way that, you know, we can see application in our business without, without becoming overtly AI, in everything we do to where, again, people tune us out because they know everything we're sending you know, is through AI somehow, that we need to have a mix of, you know, uh, that interpersonal, so for example, maybe when we do social media posts, we're going to do some things. Yeah, I mean, we're going to use AI because it would be silly not to. It wouldn't be good business because it's quicker. We can get content if we make the adjustments. Uh, but also we want to make sure we have in there that we're maybe where we're celebrating employees or we're celebrating something in the community or we're bringing things to that is more relatable to our clients because they they're part of that community too. So I think that's one of the things that we want to make sure that we're embracing. But I think the bigger picture is really, I guess the way I would put it is, I think as a business owner, small business owner, we need to be investing our energy in AI from learning and staying connected to what's happening so that we can maybe be at more of the front edge of the change in our business and embracing that change rather than letting it happen to us. Because if you wait and you let something happen to you, it's typically the outcome is not always going to be as good as what you'd hoped, right? So if all of a sudden you find yourself, whatever business you're in, that you're just not competitive or you're not delivering, like other businesses are because they embraced a certain aspect of AI and you didn't, now you're forced into something, and so, again, I think we all have to understand that the level of investment that companies are making to build out AI, they're not spending this money, to just improve, Gemini or Chat GPT or another, kind of, you know, site to get information. It's going, because there's no money in that, right? I mean, you can search AI now for virtually no cost. So nobody's making any money at that. Where they have to make money, the companies that are spending all this money, is they have to show other companies how they can capture a part of the economy using AI and save money, or improve their bottom line. So they're not doing it for anything more than to say, yes, this is going to have some kind of impact, economic impact, on businesses, because if not, then AI was a big bubble and it's just going to burst, because there's no way to make any money at it, and trillions of dollars was spent to make no money. That's not going to happen. So, but what I am optimistic about with that is that it seems like the leaders around all of this understand that this is a different technology, and it's going to be more powerful than anything that has ever been unleashed, and so we need to take it slow, because you just can't wipe out jobs. you know I mean, they're going to have to, and they understand it, and they're talking about that, that we need to be very careful on how we do this over time, because we can't just lift up a few people at the top and make them trillionaires while everybody else suffers. So either we have to lift everybody. Everybody has to be lifted up, through AI. And so that gives me a lot of optimism that, that there's going to hopefully be some, cool heads around it. So, and I mean, I'm seeing in our business, already, on the investment side, for example, I mean, there's sites out there, that is AI generated investment advisors, you know, that you're just dealing with AI. That's who you're dealing with. And obviously that company, that's doing that is collecting, a fee for it, but what they're touting is it's a much lower fee than what you would pay an actual advisor, right? So, the question is, does that person want to have a conversation, with a person, or do they want to just deal with AI? I think, you know, there's probably a window of time in that particular business, for example, that, there's going to be plenty of people that are, I know, I want to talk to Jack. I don't want to talk to AI, but as the younger generations come on and they get more acclimated to AI, they're probably going to be less and less concerned about it. I mean, look at my grandkids. They have very little intimidation around technology, right? So, so they're going to be very much more attuned to doing things through technology than through people. And
Right.
so, but, you know, that doesn't mean that there's no opportunities for us, in our businesses. They're just going to probably look different. So I guess I would just wrap all that up and say, you know, don't stick your head in the sand around AI. Learn about it, pay attention to it, begin to think about it from an entrepreneurial perspective of how can I start to embrace AI in my business? Where do I see opportunities that AI can help me as a business owner? And so, you know, the other thing that this most likely will do, it will probably generate a lot more entrepreneurs who are able to do things through AI and other technology, um, that in the past would have just been impossible. So, you know, because they just would have never had the ability to raise the funds to do it, right? So I think it's just embrace it, learn about it, don't stick your head in the sand, and say, okay, here we go. Let's see where this where we can go with this to, you know, create more value and better opportunities for our clients, our customers, our employees, you know, everybody involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dad. So you got to stop bringing these AI generated photos in for when you get your hair done by Jennifer, because they're the main culprit, giving her a problem.
I know, I know.
That's
I was really
problematic.
surprised, but Dad, I can't do that. I can't, I can't
Yeah,
do
that's
that.
AI generated.
Right,
That's
right.
not here. So go ahead, Jen. You were
No,
going to
for
say
sure.
something.
I think, there's a long game to AI, and, there's lots of things down in the future. I mean, not even so far in the future, but coming. But my question is right now, if you think about AI and what's happening inside of your business, one thing that I think it's good to talk about is that AI is like the new Google search
That's
for
right.
business, right? So it's interesting because just the other day in my Chat GBT app, I put in there what is the top salons in my area. And my salon came up number two. So then I'm asking it, well, how do I get to be number one? Right. So, number one, people are using ChatGPT AI as a search engine. Okay. So when you're done listening to this podcast, I need you to go in and see where your business falls. Um, there, obviously we're still using Google and all those things, but people are definitely using that as a search engine. I think along with TikTok. TikTok is a big search engine too. Like, how do I make blueberry pie? They're typing it into TikTok, not Google anymore. So important for us to know as business owners, right? Those are the new search engines. So figuring out how to get your business in there, um, which is pretty, AI will tell you what to do. Um, but also, like, what other ways can we be benefiting from AI just in our day-to-day operations? Obviously, we talk a lot about on this podcast about systems um, inside of your business, whether it's a check-in system, a checkout system, a checklist for an employee. AI can help you do all of that within minutes. It can be printed, and you can have a meeting tomorrow about it. Um, all of that, just having better communication. Obviously, we talked about using it in your marketing, for your emails, even just within your business from employee to employee. How to have stronger meetings or goal setting with your team. There's just so much good, information in that day to day that we don't want to miss out on, that you can be benefiting from. Meaning you can have stronger systems, better systems inside of your business just by using AI. Where before it was like you had to think about it, you had to write it down, then you had to type it up, then you had to think about it again, then you change, right? Like, there's really no excuse not to have like a step by step checklist for anything and everything inside of your business. It really has taken the guesswork out of it. Maybe if you offer some kind of education or training inside of your business, AI is the tool that you can use to really hone in on that, to make that a more permanent fixture inside of your business. So, thinking, if you're new to AI, and this is kind of, you want to incorporate it, you want to learn more about it, the best way to learn about something is to start using it inside of your business. So it's a great tool for those kinds of things. Um, Obviously, we're going to have situations like Dad mentioned in your guys' business, but for me, where it hurts us is that the consumer is confused by AI. So we want to make sure that we're not putting out misinformation using AI. So again, we don't want people coming in the salon using AI photos that are just so unrealistic. Now, I will say what's really cool, this has been happening to me, is that people are like taking a picture of themselves and then they're showing it to me like, this is what I look like with red hair and brown hair and blonde hair. And I'm like, and you can't have none of them hair colors, okay? But That was fun.
Visit you can't.
That was fun. I'm glad I can see you with every shade of the rainbow. Um,
Oh my gosh,
I think
this is
that
funny.
requires a 6-hour appointment, and we're here for 2. So,
Right.
obviously there's like people are excited about it. We know that our consumers are excited about it, but then it opens it up for a conversation of like red hair might look great on you, and this is what happens. It's never going to replace obviously a hairdresser, and what we're able to do. But we know that that's happening. We're expecting it, and we're just learning the verbiage that we have to talk to clients about. So inside of your business, is there a negative, you know, thing coming from AI, understanding it, and then figuring out how to address it inside of your business, and why we really don't want AI photos coming into our salon, right? So just a couple things to think about. Um, and then a lot that I'm hearing is like people are scared that whole industries are going to be wiped out. Dad, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit more, because I think the fearful part of it is like I just heard last week one of my clients is like, there's no reason to go to college for marketing because AI is going to take over a marketing degree. A marketing degree is a waste of time. Um, so people are fearful that AI is going to take away education and possibly job placements and careers. So how do we address that?
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. I mean, and that's a legitimate question, if I was, you know, in high school right now, I'd be like, okay, what do you, I mean, I feel like I'm college, but what do I, go after? Um, because you just don't know, what the impact of that is going to be on certain industries. And so, yes, are there going to be but I mean, we've seen some of that already, right? I mean, we've seen how technology, I mean, look at banking. I mean, the branch bank system is most cases, most of your empty buildings on corners now were formerly banks, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody does online banking. So technology has always had some level of disruption, but I think this, has the potential of being far more because again, it could literally, impact, the need for certain types of workers who, AI will be able to do it. And because you have to understand, AI doesn't, you know, they don't need coffee breaks. They don't need bathroom. It doesn't need bathroom breaks. It's works 24 hours a day. Um, and that's, and when you look at the sites, for example, around investments, for example, that's the things they promote. You can, you know, you can talk to your advisor any time. You can talk to your advisor at 3 in the morning if you want to. You can ask the same question 10 times and it doesn't get frustrated with you, So, it's just that kind of thing that, obviously we would never be able to duplicate, so I think that for certain positions, you're just going to have to continue to figure out, where, you can bring value, to the equation, that AI can't. But I think at the end of the day, when it comes to your question, Jennifer, I think, there has to be, they just can't let AI run wild,
Right.
and just, take over, so, and there seems to be enough clear thinking around that because when you got the people who are developing this technology, saying that, you know, that then and that gives me optimism that they're just not going to allow that to happen, so because that wouldn't be good, for any aspect of the economy. But it's definitely something that you have to be thinking about, and so I think coming back to the entrepreneur, I think, you need to be thinking like an entrepreneur and say, all right, how can I use AI to promote something that maybe I have, a desire, an interest, or whatever the case may be. I mean, I'm thinking like in your business, Jen, can, how much guesswork could an AI program take out of, the formula for a hair color, right? I mean, is there a way to take a picture or, and say, all right, what's the formula, for this hair color? And, rather than, and I don't understand your business, so, but rather than trying to take some of the human guesswork out of, that. Um, and I'm sure something like that's already probably being talked about or developed, right? And I think in our case, people are going out there saying, what should I invest in, or what, you know, I mean, I had a client call the other day and said, he was talking about coverages on, you know, certain type of insurance on his equipment, and he went out and, you know, to AI and he's, he, he went all the way back, giving me a history lesson on how insurance started back in the shipping days of, you know, I'm like, all right, well, I understand, how it all got started. We just need to talk about what we're dealing with right here. So, um, but, that's what people are going to, so that can feed them information that they can misconstrue,
Right,
right? Like you
right,
said. And I think that's the other problem is it might be feeding them accurate information, but how they have taken in and then turn it into, something that makes sense isn't always going to be the case either. So,
right.
Right.
um, but I think, as we probably should be bringing this to an end here, we just need, I just say, be optimistic about it. Don't be fearful. Be cautious, but don't be fearful. Um, and don't stick your head in the sand. It's coming and it's going to move fast. And so, we're going to have to probably be more nimble in our businesses than ever before on how we're going to use it to, again, bring value. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we should be doing in our businesses is how do we bring value to our customers and our clients.
Love it. Dad just wrapped it up. How about it? Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you guys in our next episode. Bye.